Good afternoon, everybody. How are we today? Um, Very light meeting, very light agenda. I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Kiana McClure. I am a very recent addition to the Vision team. I am co-chair of Project Vision with Adam, and this is my first time running a meeting by myself, so please provide feedback. I would like to go ahead and get the ball rolling, and I would like to invite Chief Kilcullen up to the podium to give his remarks.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, okay, go ahead.
And just a reminder for everybody, we need to speak into the microphone whenever anyone is called upon so we can be picked up by PEG TV. Got that reminder this morning. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief. Sorry.
All right, no problem, thank you. Well, thanks, everyone. I think it seems like it's been a little while since we've all been here. Maybe it was just me, I don't know. But good to see everyone again. Just a few updates. You may have seen an article recently, I think it was in 7 Days. It was an article about Burlington and some of the public safety issues and challenges they've had up there. And they're talking about their overdoses that they've had up there. Yes. Pardon? Closer? Okay. So their overdose numbers, again, not too flattering. So all of last year, they had experienced 252 overdoses. That's all of 2022. That's fatal and non-fatal. And so far this year, they've got about 400. Our numbers aren't quite what theirs are, but a significant increase over last year. 2022, we had a total of 80 overdoses, both fatal and non-fatal. So far in 2023, we've had 126, 124. So again, it's a significant increase. We've had some real challenges. I think everyone in this room probably, in some form or fashion, has been exposed to the crisis. And again, it is statewide, and so the governor has put together a 10-point plan to address some public safety issues statewide, and contracted with Jim Baker to spearhead some of the training and the awareness for really highlighting Project Vision, sort of replicating that in other parts of the state. Last week, we were invited to attend a workshop highlighting Project Vision, really kind of talking about the history of Project Vision, where we've been, where we are, what sort of was the impetus behind it. As you can, I think, imagine, there are other places throughout the state that are experiencing the same things that we experienced then and continue to experience. And so Brattleboro, Bennington, Springfield were, I'd say, kind of three of the larger areas that are looking to do the same thing. Bennington, I think, is probably a little bit further ahead than the others right now. We have shared our job descriptions for our community resource specialists with those other agencies looking to do the same thing. Because, again, much of what we respond to requires a response, but not necessarily a police response. And so with our community resource specialists really leveraging our other partners in the community, I think we're providing a response that we hope will provide some better outcomes. And so other areas are looking to do the same thing. Brattleboro actually came up here and spent about 3 days with us, I think, earlier this year. Spent a lot of time with Kyle, and again, looking to do the same thing. So hopefully we'll have some success once they get things up and running. They really liked the idea of having our embedded partners with us at the police station. And I talked about, over a number of years, whenever I go to a budget meeting, and the board typically might ask about our second floor. Right, because 15 years ago, the sheriff's department used to lease that out and generated some revenue, and so that revenue is not there. Okay, and they asked about that loss of revenue, and I said, look, you can't put a dollar amount on the value we get from having our partners right there at the police station. And I think the board does get that now. So I haven't been asked those questions in a few years, but I think those who were in attendance at the workshop last week kind of appreciated that too. I think they kind of get the same sort of questions if they're having thoughts of embedding clinicians or partners with them in the station without, again, without generating any rent, then those are the questions they're asked. But anyway, it's served us well, and I think their hope is that they sort of replicate that where they are. Where are we in terms of our staffing? We continue to hire. Just recently, the board approved in the union had approved us hiring some part-time police officers and dispatchers. You may or may not know the various levels of certifications for police officers in Vermont. The highest level is a level 3 certified police officer, and we hire everyone to become level 3 officers. And so that's what we're looking to do right now, hire even part-timers as level 3 officers. So we're looking at officers who are already level 3 trained, working typically elsewhere as a level 3 officer, who want kind of to share in the excitement of working in Rutland. So the day after we had the agreements approved by the board and the union, we had an application for 1 dispatcher and 1 level 3 officer. So we'll move through those quickly and hopefully have them up and running within a couple of weeks. Going forward, we'll have a little more organized sort of recruitment campaign and hopefully get some more. It's a short-term solution. Our goal really is to fill all our full-time positions. But just like everyone else, I think, across the state, trying to hire police officers, it's been somewhat challenging, unfortunately. Spent some time with the mayor yesterday, who's been in conversation with the union and coming up with some ideas on how to address this. So, as I always say, if you know anyone who's interested in becoming a police officer, we've got openings. And that's all I've got right now. I will pass it back to Kiana. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Chief Kilcullen. Next, I would like to invite Mayor Dunges up to the podium for his remarks.
Thank you. All right, happy Thursday, everybody. I'll give a quick update, kind of in the same line of what Chief has been talking about. The public safety aspect of what we're doing here. I had the opportunity to meet with the governor about 3 weeks ago now, to have a conversation about what resources we can bring to the Rutland area. So that conversation was in part, how can we effectively add to our policing and what we're doing at Project Vision, and then also in part, how can the state side on the judiciary amp up in the Rutland area to kind of take care of some of those challenges. So really positive results there. The governor is going to be looking into how we can work a little bit more on getting judges and appropriate state's attorneys in our space so that we can process through that backlog of cases that we have. On the other front, as far as it comes to transitional housing and whatnot, actually I have Chris Winters, who is the commissioner of the Department of Children and Families, has actually come down to meet with us today, so he's going to speak for a minute in just a second. But one of the things that we presented to them back in June was that transitional housing campus. We continue to work on that. DCF has actually funded a position or given us money towards a position or a consultant where we can work to develop a program that would work specifically with temporary and transitional housing. So that's really interesting as we work through that process. But we're moving forward, albeit at the pace of government. We are moving forward through these things, and hopefully shortly we'll start to see some headway there. So I'd like to introduce Chris Winters. Chris, like I said, is the commissioner. He's going to speak to us a little bit about what he's been doing at the state level. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor Dunges, and thank you all for having me here today. I'm sorry to show up a little bit late to the meeting. Didn't account for leaf peepers. I should know better. My name is Chris Winters. I'm the relatively new commissioner of the Department for Children and Families. Just a little bit about me. I grew up in Williamstown, just a little ways north from here, a long ways north from here, but the oldest of 3 boys, bless my mother, right? And I was the first one in my family to go to college. I went to Boston and San Diego for college, and then came back to Vermont with a law degree and a lifetime of law loans. Still working on those, but the plan was to come back, make a bunch of money as a fancy law talking guy, right? Didn't quite go that way. My first child was on the way, and I had an opportunity to go work for the Secretary of State's office. For Jim Milne was the Secretary of State at the time. And I just fell in love with that work, with public service and giving back to the state that I always felt had given so much to me. I started out as legal counsel for licensing boards, so nurses and real estate brokers and funeral directors, doing public protection work, making sure that the public was protected from things like unprofessional conduct. And then from there, I became the director of the office under Deb Markowitz, and just kept on going. About 8 years ago, when Jim Kondos, the third Secretary of State that I worked for, asked me if I'd be his deputy secretary, I jumped at that opportunity. How can I make a bigger difference for the state that I love so much? How can I make more of an impact in Vermont? And so I had 25 years in the Secretary of State's office, building a great professional regulation system that was the envy of other states, a streamlined business registration process. We had the state archives and the records center, and of course, elections, where we really lead the nation in accessibility and security in our elections, including conducting Vermont's first vote-by-mail election in the middle of a pandemic. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of, that we made it so that no Vermonter had to choose between their health and their right to vote. I was really proud of making my little corner of state government more efficient, more accessible, and more transparent. So after about 24 years in the Secretary of State's office, when Jim Kondos decided he was going to retire and he announced that, I decided I had to run for Secretary of State. Newsflash, I lost. So after 25 years doing that, I had to figure out what else I wanted to do. Was I going to go outside of state government? Was I going to stay in state government? And looking around for where I could put my skills to the best use, people kept pointing me to this vacant DCF commissioner position. And a lot of people were encouraging me to apply, but almost as many were discouraging me from applying, saying it's the worst job in state government. Yes, they actually say that about the job that I now hold. I disagree with that. It is absolutely one of the hardest. It's some of the most difficult material to deal with. It's emotionally heavy. It is huge, but it's an incredible opportunity to make an impact. It's among the most impactful things that I felt I could be doing in state government. And I'm surrounded by these people who are so passionate about the work that they do. Like many of you in this room, I'm sure, they're passionate about helping others and making a difference. So I'm still kind of finding my way around. It's 6 months later since I've started this position. It is the largest department in state government. We have about 1,000 staff members and about a $500 million budget. And we impact the lives of about 200,000 Vermonters every single year that come in contact with us in some way or another, whether that's family services, economic services, the Child Development Division, the Office of Economic Opportunity, the Office of Child Support, or Disability Determination Services. So it's a really broad scope of things that we do at the department. It's a huge job, but I'm committed to bringing those values of transparency, service, building trust in government, and efficiency to a much larger scale at DCF. And I'm working hard on improving that communication across DCF and rebuilding a trusting relationship with the staff there, who've been through a lot in the last 3 years, something I'm sure a lot of you have experienced, that overload, that shifting sand beneath your feet, that compassion fatigue that you get when you're constantly in crisis mode. So I get the sense that a lot of you in this room would know what I'm talking about. Homelessness has been at the forefront since I've started this position. And a former DCF commissioner warned me that you're going to feel like you have to solve it. I feel that way every single day, but of course no one person is going to be able to solve the problem. No one agency, no one city, no one local government can do it alone. But we can all work our tails off to try to make homelessness brief, rare, and non-recurring. And we can do that, and you all can make a difference in that in some way. Every single one of us can, and if we work together on those small things, we can certainly make a big difference together. So that's why I get excited when I see a room like this with so many people in the community kind of coming out to solve problems together and to try to make a difference together. And so I'm really excited that the mayor invited me down here today. and that I'm here to talk about homelessness and the social safety net, to talk with local partners and leaders, and to see how we can work together. I just took a look at Project Vision's overview from the website before I came down, and I think it says it better than I can. Underscoring our coalition's collaborative spirit is the understanding that the challenges facing our community are more significant than the scope of any single organization or agency. And if we want to address and resolve the social and public health issues of the greater Rutland region, we must all coordinate each of our efforts. We recognize that meaningful change requires new, comprehensive, and more integrated collaboration among the many agencies and organizations serving in the Rutland region. It's really well said. So I do want you to know that we at the Agency of Human Services are working on many fronts to address and prevent unsheltered homelessness. We have our general assistance housing program that really, as you all know all too well, has an oversized presence in Rutland, with many folks housed in hotels and motels as we speak. I think we can all agree that that's not ideal, that program is not ideal, and we want to move away from that model. That'll take a lot more in investment and prevention efforts. It'll take more in subsidies and services, and ultimately it's about units and affordable housing. I'm not here to talk about the housing side of the equation. Ultimately, that's where the solution lies. There is another state agency that works a lot on that, and we're doing more to be hand in hand when we talk to the legislature about homelessness. It's housing and homelessness. How can we build more affordable units? And so that's the approach that we're taking more frequently with the legislature. But when it comes to the services, the social services, and the safety net, we want your ideas. And we're very much interested in expanding the traditional shelter system, but that takes investments, that takes buildings, that takes providers to run the shelters, and to have the services that are really needed to ensure the greatest chance of success for those in need. We can be helpful in terms of funding and expertise, but it takes so much more than that. So I'm here to better understand how we can work together, how the state can support Rutland's efforts, and I'd invite you to throw your ideas at me, ask me questions, let me know how you think that the state can be a better partner. So thanks for having me here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Winters. And don't go quite yet. I was actually about to open the floor to questions for you from our audience here. We should have a mic circulating in the back. Again, I do encourage people to speak into the microphone, and when you ask your question, if you could just state your name and the agency that you're from for PEG TV, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Richards. My name is Richard Gallo. I'm with the Vermont Veterans Outreach Program out of Colchester, Vermont. What are your feelings or your thoughts as far as when you mention shelters? Should there be a divide, a separation between wet shelters and normal operating shelters for the safety of the people who are running them?
It's an excellent question. As you know, we had quite a tragic incident earlier this year down in Brattleboro. Staff safety at the shelters has been on the forefront of the Office of Economic Opportunity's mind. They created a working group. They took a lot of feedback from folks across the state around shelter safety and have developed a training on things like de-escalation techniques, physical safety, building safety, defense. And I think about 200 different shelter workers have taken that course so far, and we're going to continue to make that available. One of the real problems we face is having people to staff shelters. And for them to, give of themselves and do this really hard work and have to fear for their physical safety is a very difficult thing. So as we look at expanding shelters, having low barrier, no barrier shelters, I think it's really important that we consider staff safety when we look at that. I do, and there will be other hard decisions to be made, I think, about having families or children in congregate settings. We don't want that. We want at least semi-congregate, if not non-congregate settings for families and families with children. So all of those safety factors come into play there as well. I may at some point here phone a friend. I brought someone along with me. Her name is Carrie Duquette Hoffman. Carrie is the Adam Sansick of Chittenden County and Addison County. And Carrie, I don't know if you want to actually, you've got a microphone right behind you, weigh in on this question as well.
I think it's an excellent question. I'll say there's a lot behind it, right? I think we really do need a full spectrum of shelter services in our state. And I'm going to speak for myself and not for Commissioner Winters. So feel free to edit anything I say. But we really do need a spectrum. I think Commissioner Winters really speaks to the need for safety of all of our shelter workers, absolutely. But what the police chief was citing, one of the things we know is that a significant amount of the population of people who are homeless are utilizing substances at this point. One of the stories that I heard from someone I worked with years ago was, I have to get my dinner out of a trash can, and I can't do that sober. And so I think, to me, that really centers the concerns that many of the people we're working with are facing. So that's a long way of saying, we really do need a variety of options. One size doesn't fit all. One thing, the Office of Economic Opportunity is working so hard to support communities in coming up with what's right for you, right? Because you know your community best, and know what's going to work here, and who's here and what do they need. I don't know if that helps. But.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mariah. I'm in between where I am in my life right now. I went through a homelessness for 10 months, even though I owned my own house. Luckily, I have a family that's loving and supportive, and I was able to go. I had to be separated from my son because my parents couldn't take both of us, with my sister being autistic. It really messed up her regular routine. So I had to hire an attorney because the way the laws are set up, the abuser had more rights than my son, who I was trying to protect. Not everyone that is homeless because they're abusers, or because they're using. They're homeless because they're trying to leave a bad situation. And when you leave a bad situation, you don't always have the opportunity to save money or make a plan. And you don't always have support. I have a list of things that I have written to state representatives and various people in the government about my experience and suggestions that I have. And if I get a chance, I'd like to talk with you after. But just this weekend, I saw a woman walking down my street with nothing but a bra on. And I said, "Are you okay?" She was running from her abuser with no place to go and too afraid to shelter in a hotel because she was going to be with people that, as she put it, people she needed to stay away from, which tells me she was in recovery. We definitely need a system where we're sending people that are leaving abuse to one location, whether it's a specific hotel. People that just don't have the income, so they're losing their housing, and it's a family, to another shelter. there's a difference between separating people because you're putting them in a subgroup, but you also need to protect people that need that protection. And the last thing I'm going to say is anyone on Section 8 SSDI, or not SSDI, or social services of some kind like that don't make a lot of income, they should just automatically be given vouchers for low-income care. And that would cut down the waiting list for Section 8, because those people cannot afford housing at all with their income, no matter what. That's it.
Mariah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being vulnerable. It's hearing stories like yours that make a real difference, and I'd be glad to follow up with you, and it looks like Carrie will be glad to follow up with you as well. What you speak to, a couple of things that you raise I think are really important, that the homeless are not a monolith, and there are a lot of stereotypes around people experiencing homelessness, and they're multifaceted and have many different situations and many different needs. And I hear what you're saying about the different needs of domestic violence victims and survivors. I'd be glad to talk to you about that more. And I think it also highlights one of the issues that we are struggling with the hotel motel program and putting so many people together in one place without the wraparound services and supports that are necessary to help them be successful. Any other questions? Thank you, and I'd be glad to hang around a little bit later and talk to folks if you'd like to.
Awesome. Thank you again, Commissioner Winters, and thank you everybody who had questions and who engaged in the presentation. So we're going to go ahead and move out into our breakout sessions now. We do have adequate seating in the lobby. I left some chairs out there earlier. So if we could have the community policing meet in the sanctuary area at this time and have the community health committee meet in the lobby, that would be great. And Kyle will be leading over to the community health group. Thank you all. We'll reconvene in probably about 15, 20 minutes. Thank you for participating in the breakout sessions. I hope everybody goes home with some interesting and some new information. I would like to open the floor once everybody gets seated and settled. I'd like to open the floor to exciting new news or positive stories here in the community. And I am going to start with Kyle from Project Vision to tell us all about the exciting new initiative that he discussed with the Community Health Committee. And then after, I will be calling up Turning Point, but this was shared during the breakout session, and I would like to hear more about it.
I'm going to assume you're talking about the Outreach Care Team?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So today the Outreach Care Team held our first official meeting. So this team is comprised of the Police Department, Turning Point, the Rutland Free Clinic, Rutland Mental Health, the Medical Reserve Corps, and probably some other people. And our purpose is to go out and provide basic health assessments to those who are living on the streets or are in between homes or just really whoever we find that wants one. So we'll be doing basic medical assessments with some members of the Medical Reserve Corps, blood pressure, blood sugar, stuff like that, height, weight, and talking about, some medical issues that they might be having, some wound care, and any chronic illnesses that they may have that are probably going untreated because they're living on the street and probably don't have a PCP. So we're going to meet with them and try and get them evaluated, recommend some offices that they should be visiting, some specialties, things like that, and try and follow up with them because we're going to be going out every week and meeting with these same people and trying to do follow-up and trying to at least get a basic evaluation done so somebody's providing care for them. And so we had our first meeting today, and we're hitting the streets next week for our first actual, whatever we're going to call it, mobile clinic, I think is the word we're using at this point. And yeah, that's basically it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kyle. I would also like to pass the mic over to Turning Point of Rutland County. You guys are welcome to come up to the podium or take a microphone, whichever you'd prefer. All right. And please make sure you both speak into the mic if you have something to share, just so it's recorded for PEG TV.
You mean like this?
Exactly.
Okay. Hi. I'm a recovery coach at Turning Point of Rutland County. This is my coworker Katie. She's also a recovery coach. We are also peer support specialists. We're relatively new to the Turning Point scene. At least I am. Katie has been there a little longer than I have. But so we're in the process. We had an event, unfortunately, on the same day as the Whoopie Pie Festival. Before either of us was hired on, so not planning on our part, but we did the best we could because in addition to the Whoopie Pie Festival, there was also a suicide awareness walk. There was a lot going on that day, so it was really just the weather wasn't great either. Like, it was a perfect storm of things, but unfortunately, it's our 4th annual event. We've been putting it on for 4 years, and in the past, it was in the Gazebo Park, Main Street Park, I think it's called. But unfortunately, the Whoopie Pie Festival the Suicide Awareness Walk was there, so we were unfortunately unable to get it. So we were down in Meadow Street. But I feel like at this point there's a lot of opportunity to expand on the event. We had community partners down there. A lot of people set up booths, but unfortunately, attendance just wasn't where we would have hoped it would have been. But that was this year. Next year, we're already planning for the event, so it's hopefully going to be infinitely better. We will do it on a day that there's not other events. I think that was our biggest lesson in that, was make sure the planning process, we have the ability to, kind of have the spotlight that day. There's a lot of worthy causes, and having to choose one is kind of, counterproductive. So I think organizing a little better is how we're going to do that next year, as well as we have not had any sponsors for it. So we've done it 4 years on our own steam, raising money ourselves, and we haven't had any corporate sponsors or really any sort of assistance in that realm. So next year we're hoping to get sponsorship for sure to just have it be a bigger event, and we want as much participation from other community partners as we can possibly get. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a dunk tank, we had a hot dog eating contest, we had a DJ. I'm a little biased because I was the DJ, but he was pretty good, I heard. And ultimately it was a good time, but I think there's a lot of room for us to expand upon it, and we want to involve as many people as possible and reach as many people as we can. So going forward, we hope for much more collaboration next year. We also have a trunk or treat event coming up. It's going to be on the 31st on Halloween, 3:30 to 5:30. Katie's kind of the point person on that, so I think I'll hand it off to her.
Okay. So we're going to do that on Halloween Day just to kind of offer a safer space. We're on 141 State Street, so to the families and stuff around that area, we are open to if any community partners would like to come and have a trunk available. Trunk or treat is you kind of just decorate your trunk and hand out candy to whoever's walking by. So just to kind of, do something for the community, especially those around us. But yeah, and just to speak of the Stopping at Stigma, that the idea behind that in the beginning was, to talk about the stigma that surrounds addiction and those in addiction. And just to be open about it and to see that, we're all just people too. And we're all, just to have that wraparound care for those kind of people and to bring awareness to it. And with that, we're always looking for people to speak on stigma, different community partners as well. And whoever wants to be involved with that is more than welcome. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And if anyone else, absolutely, we've got a hand to share some positive stories. You could just share your name, the organization that you're from for PEG TV.
Hey all, I'm Bianca Zanella with News Story Center, and I just want to thank Mariah for sharing her story today, and also just speak to that because a lot of what we heard today was about shelter space, and News Story Center is our only real shelter space, but we only serve survivors of domestic and sexual violence, right? So we have the mission, we have hotels, and then that's not an option for everyone, right? And so I just wanted to, as an uplifting way to say, November 30th, we are going to be expanding our shelter space and have an open house for our renovations. And so we're actually doubling our capacity for survivors of violence. So look out for the invitation. And it's really exciting, right? And so I hope to see everyone there. We'll send out the details in the invitation, but it will be November 30th. And October is actually Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so there's a couple of trainings that have been sent out, I think, via the listserv, or if not, they will be. And yeah, if folks are hearing in the community that people need support, but they're afraid to reach out to News Story Center for any reason, whether it's stigma or otherwise, or they've heard something, we really do take into account everyone's individual story. And we're like queen of third, fourth, fifth chances over here. So if you're hearing things and people are concerned or worried, like please have them call us or reach out with them. People can reach out to us anonymously as well, just to kind of get information and hopefully create that warm handoff, that connection. But we're really excited to double our capacity, and it's going to be beautiful, and we hope that everyone comes and supports us in that. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Bianca. And it looks like we've got another hand in the back. There's so many positive stories this month. I'm so happy. It was a one-woman show up here last month. Thank you for the participation, guys.
So we have a new employee at the Community Justice Center at Brock.
Hi guys, my name's Eve. I just started with Brock about 2-3 weeks ago. I haven't quite completed my training for the re-entry coordinator, but I'm still learning, and hopefully the next couple weeks I'll be able to contribute more to the conversation.
Welcome, Eve. Good to see you. Last time I saw you, we were in high school together. So awesome to see some other young people getting involved. So thank you so much. And the last chance for anyone to share any positive stories, any new hires, anything like that. Oh, I see a hand back here.
My name is Sherry Morgan. I live here in Rutland. I just want to say, well, 4 years ago, I was at News Story. And I just want to say they got to be the most awesome place, and they do deserve a bigger place.
Thank you so much. Alrighty, well, with those positive words, I will call this meeting to a close. Thank you guys so much for all being here, attending. If you have any feedback, please let me know. I look forward to seeing you all next month, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.